Hello everybody, this is Dave Meyer, the Pitmaster with Flying Swine Barbecue. Today we've got your basic pork butt. It's about an 8.5, 9 pound pork butt, just store-bought. We're going to be smoking this tomorrow, just as our practice pork butt. Same thing we would do for a competition. We will be trimming this down just as if it's a competition. And as most of you know, this is the money muscle. Look for several with a good sized money muscle, but this was the only one that I could see that had a decent one. So we'll get that trimmed down and show you. Obviously we are going to trim this down. I want to open this up so that we get the bark on that money muscle. This doesn't have a whole lot of fat to it, but we do want to get all that fat off so that we can render all this down. I will be making a slice here across this area so we can expose that money muscle, and I'll show you what I'm talking about here in just a moment, because there's a deep fat vein that runs right next to the money muscle. And by KCBS rules, the money muscle must be attached to the pork butt for competition. So what we're trying to do here is expose the whole top of this money muscle so that we get a lot of good bark on that money muscle. And that's important for the competition, for the judges. Judges want to taste that bark on the money muscle. So we're going to make sure we get all this exposed on the top here. And we'll just trim this down a little bit here and get some more of that exposed. Just like that. And again, we're going to get rid of some of this fat. We don't need all that fat on there because there's a lot of marbling within this meat that's going to help keep it really moist. So we get a lot of the money muscle exposed here. We're also going to take out some of this, and I'll probably just go ahead and cut this whole section out here. That's useless meat. Really don't need that. And just carve down this fat tissue here. We don't need. And we'll get back to that piece here in a minute as I flip this over. And again, we just want to get as much fat off of this as we can, because we don't need all that fat on this meat. And I'll show you the horn here in just a minute as we expose it. There's 3 pieces of meat to a pork butt. Obviously the money muscle that I just showed you. We have all the veins and tubes in this section, and this is the horn. This is where you're going to get all of your chunks for your competition. Obviously your medallions off of your money muscle, and then here's where we're going to do all of our pulled pork. So let me cut down the fat in this section here, and let's get this horn separated out as well. And again, anything loose like this you can cut off. We don't need that. That's just going to be in the way when you start to do your rub, because you're going to get rub all the way down into this. This is your horn down in here. And again, you want to clean this up Try to get as much fat as possible, and there's a little bit of that silver skin in this area. And if you don't get that off, you're just going to hinder your rub getting into your meat. So make sure you're getting that silver skin and fat off of there so that you can get your rub into the meat and get it flavored. This actually is not a bad piece of meat. There's not a lot of fat on this. So we're not having to take a whole lot of time trimming this one out. This is exactly what we would do the night before any competition. We would get all of our meat cut down the way we want it prior to competition, so we're not spending a lot of time at the competition doing this and getting our meat ready, as there's enough stuff to do the day of competition with seasoning and so forth. See, here's another one of those fat veins in here. And my wife is lifting my sleeve up, thank you, dear. And just go ahead and cut that fat vein up out of there, because you don't need that. You won't need it at all. And actually, we'll just take this piece off. We really don't need that. And you're exposing the horn a little bit better. So as you can see, you're starting to get 3 pieces of meat here. Your money muscle, the tubes, and your horn. And again, you're going to slice this for your medallions. You're going to pull this for your pulled pork, and then you're going to use this for your chunk. So we got the bottom here. This is your fat cap. We want to get as much of that fat cap off as possible, because there's a lot of great meat underneath that you're going to want to get flavor. This is also called the bacon, and you'll see what I'm talking about when I start getting this fat cap off. There's some great marbling in here in the meat that'll keep it moist during cooking. And you can see some of this beautiful bacon area here. And you don't have to take a lot of time to get all this off. You just want to get the vast majority of it off, so that your rub can get into your meat, because that's what the judges are looking for, is good bark and good taste. You can see a lot of this bacon now that we've got a lot of that fat cap cut off. And a lot of this is that thick fat that won't render down anyway, so it's kind of useless fat. It's not going to do anything for moistening your meat whatsoever. Just get it down in here and get that big fat vein removed. Now we will let this sit overnight. We'll get some rub on it later this evening and let that rub soak in overnight before we start smoking that. And we'll do, I guess, a short little video about how we do the rub later this evening. This is the bottom of the money muscle here. And we're going to draw a line right across here because we want to get as much rub as possible on that money muscle. Because it's called money muscle for a reason. That's where you get your money. We'll get all this fat out of here. You can be somewhat aggressive with this. Remember, the whole idea is to get as much rub as possible on that meat, and that's what you want to expose, is that meat. And we're just trying to get as much of this hard fat out of that money muscle as you can. Again, here's some of that silver skin, the light fat you want to get out of there. You get your rub into there. A lot of this is all got to come out down here. This is a lot of that silver skin. All right, so that's it for the trimming out of the Boston butt. Is again, you got 3 pieces of meat. You got your money muscle, which is right here. This is going to make your medallions, and this is where you're really going to get the tender part of your meat out. These are the tubes. This is where you're going to get your pulled, and of course this is your horn, and you're going to get your chunks out of this horn. This is a lot of good tender meat in here. So that's your trim. If you have any questions, feel free to leave comments on the video. It'll be up on the Facebook page and also the website. And we'll come back later and show you how we inject this and also do the rub on it prior to cooking. Thanks, have a great day and enjoy the barbecue.